各位观众朋友，大家好，欢迎收看我的学习笔记。我们今天为大家邀访到一位英国的这个 YouTuber， 他叫 Louis。那这位 Louis 他非常有意思，他先前呢他就到中国大使馆向中国大使馆递交申请台湾护照的申请书，结果呢被中国大使馆撵出来了。撵出来的理由是说要申请台湾护照要去台湾使馆，不要来中国使馆，我们没有办法核发。所以呢他其实就挑动了中国的这个神经。中国人呢表面上说台湾是中国的一部分，可是呢嘴里愿意，身体却挺诚实的，把它撵出来这件事情就证明了台湾不是中国的一部分。所以 Louis 的行动呢为我们证明了这一点。透过今天的访谈呢，来看看一个英国的 YouTuber， 一个英国人怎么样看台湾。
Hello Mr. Louis, I'm Augustine Liao. It's very pleasure to have you with us. Could you introduce yourself?
Sure, yeah, sure. So my name's Louis and I come from the UK. I've lived in both Taiwan and China. I lived in China for 7 years and I lived in Taiwan for 2 years. I was teaching English in both countries, and then when I was in Taiwan, I decided to become a YouTuber, and that is what I do right now. I have several YouTube channels where I talk about the politics between Taiwan and China, the differences between the two countries, and why I support a democratic country over an authoritarian nightmare of a country. And that's what I do. So it's very nice to be here today.
Yes.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for to share with us. And you have lived in Taiwan before. Could you please share with us what are the most attractive features of Taiwan to you?
So, I lived in China for 7 years and Taiwan for 2. And I think the most attractive feature of Taiwan, what stands out the most for me about Taiwan, is that Taiwan is definitely not a part of communist China. So let me just give you an example. So Taiwan is a thriving democracy and China is not. Your leaders in Taiwan, they're democratically elected by the people and they work for the people. And in China, the Communist Party decides who the leader is and they rule everything and the people have absolutely no say about it. And the Taiwanese people that I met, they are very, very passionate about politics. And in Taiwan, you have a lot more in common with the UK than you do with China. Okay, you've got amazing healthcare, you've got political freedom, and it's nothing like that in China. And I think that democratic countries should stick together and we should really champion our way of life over these authoritarian countries. You know what I mean? Like our countries, they're not perfect. They're definitely not perfect. But I'd much rather be able to criticize my government, and just talk about politics rather than being thrown in prison or get in trouble just for comparing a leader to a cartoon character, like the whole Winnie the Pooh thing. So what stands out about me for Taiwan is that it's really a democratic country. So many websites around the world, they talk about how Taiwan is a more democratic country, even more democratic than the United Kingdom.
I think what I hear is that you think that Taiwan and Britain have a different culture, but we share the same institution, democratic institution. And although
Correct.
we have Taiwanese and Chinese have the same or the similar culture, but we share a different institution. And it reminds me that very great writers, British writer George Orwell, many decades ago, reminds human beings that George Orwell, many novels he wrote decades ago reminds want to say that human beings pursue freedom. It's a human nature, and all the authoritarian leader want to propagate to his people that they have to give up their freedom to some authoritarian leader and to give up their freedom and to trust him and give up their soul. Yes, so I think democratic institution, democratic system is not about culture. It's about human nature. Yes.
Absolutely.
And, yes. And the second question I want to say is that from a foreigner's point of view, would you think it's worthwhile for you to stand up and speak out for Taiwan?
Yeah, absolutely. It is really worthwhile to stand up and speak out for Taiwan because, like I said previously, we have a lot more in common with Taiwan than we do with China, and China is bullying Taiwan right now, threatening to invade, saying that they want to take over Taiwan and install their authoritarian nightmare of a government onto the Taiwanese people. So I think it's definitely worth standing up for Taiwan, which is why I make my videos. And like I said previously as well, if you look at many websites online, they give countries a freedom score. And Taiwan is often above the UK in terms of freedom, political freedom, and that kind of thing. And that means that the United Kingdom can learn a hell of a lot from Taiwan. So it makes me feel really annoyed that Taiwan is unfairly dismissed by the United Nations. And these authoritarian countries like China, they have a say in how countries like my country, the UK, says things about Taiwan. It just really annoys me how we've ended up in this situation. And I think it's absolutely one of the most important things, especially in my world, to stick up for Taiwan.
Okay, so do you think nowadays Europeans or British have more good view of Taiwan, and how could you think people in Britain can do to push your government to do something for Taiwan in their international situation?
Yeah, sure. That's a good question. I think one of the most important things for me is to raise awareness of Taiwan's situation, which is why I quite often write letters to my member of parliament, asking them why do they not recognize Taiwan as a country? Because like I said previously, we can learn a hell of a lot about Taiwan. We can learn a hell of a lot for our own country from Taiwan, right? So yeah, I always write to my member of parliament. In fact, I think that my MP, my member of parliament in the UK, I think that they really hate me so much because I always write them emails or write them a handwritten letter to tell them that Taiwan is a country and that we should start recognizing Taiwan because we can learn a lot from Taiwan and that they have way more in common with the UK. I think my member of parliament is really annoyed with me because I write them so many letters. So yeah, we can do things like that, make sure that our government is aware, because our government also is a democratically elected government on the premise that the government works for the people, right? So I think the people should use that and contact the government and start talking about Taiwan.
Yes. So thank you for what you are doing for Taiwan, to petition for Taiwan or for MP. But another detailed question: you know that in European world, such as Germany, many MPs are bribes by the Russian and China. I think in international situations, realistic point of view is the mainstream in the Britain politics or German politics. It's a realization. It's a fact. So how do you think we cannot be naive to expect the government to give up realism, to do business with China, the so big country? How can people do? It's a big question. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very big question. I think part of it also rests on Taiwan. I mean, we all know that Taiwan I know that Taiwan is an amazing democracy. You know that Taiwan is an amazing democracy, right?
Yes.
But Taiwan, it more than often doesn't take the initiative to promote itself on the international stage. And I think that if Taiwan made more of an effort to really let the rest of the world know its situation and know its problem, China, I think the more people in international communities in the UK, for example, the more people that are aware of Taiwan's situation, I think the better it will be for Taiwan, and there will be more pressure from governments, especially the American government and my government, to actually step in and do something to help Taiwan. Because if you go out on the street, I don't know if you've noticed, but from some of my videos, I'll go out on the street and I'll ask people questions about Taiwan, and they have absolutely no clue about Taiwan. They don't know anything. They don't even know that Taiwan is being bullied by China right now. They don't even know that China is threatening to invade Taiwan. But then if you ask them a question about Ukraine, for example, then they absolutely know what's going on in Ukraine. They know the whole situation with Ukraine and Russia. So I think if Taiwan maybe makes more of an effort to let people know about their situation and it's reported about more in the news, then perhaps more people will care about it. Therefore, they can pressure governments into actually stepping in and doing something about it.
Also, it's a responsibility of Taiwanese to enlighten foreigners to know where is Taiwan and who is Taiwan.
Share your stories. Share your stories with the rest of the world.
Yes. Okay. Another soft question. When you lived in Taiwan, yes, did you experience any cultural shock or unforgettable experience that made a deep impression on you?
Wow, culture shock. Not really, to be honest with you, because when I went to Taiwan, I went there straight from China. So in terms of like language and that kind of thing, there were just a few things that I kind of noticed that were a bit different, that kind of shocked me a little bit. For example, in China, they used the simplified characters. But in Taiwan, they use the more traditional characters. So when I was studying Mandarin, I studied it in China, and I could read and write simplified characters. And then when I got to Taiwan, I was completely shocked that the characters were different, and many characters I just couldn't read anymore. I was just kind of, it wasn't a culture shock, but it was a big shock to me. But in terms of culture and that kind of thing, I kind of knew what to expect when I went to Taiwan because I already did my research. But I think if somebody new who's never heard of Taiwan from the UK would go straight to Taiwan, I think there would be a couple of things that would shock them about Taiwan. The first thing is the traffic. Oh my God. Like, you're walking along you're walking along a busy road. Mm-hmm. There's no pavement, there's no sidewalk, there's just scooters coming at you like 60 miles per hour, just shooting straight towards you, and you have to avoid that. And the traffic is crazy. That is what many foreigners complain about when they go to Taiwan, is the traffic problem. And I think another thing would be maybe just some of the food that you eat in Taiwan. In particular, I think the cho tofu, the stinky tofu. That would really, if you've never experienced that, the first experience of smelling the cho tofu, that's an interesting one.
Do you like cho tofu?
Actually, I tried it. I actually did a video where I tried the stinky tofu, and I actually enjoyed it. Yeah, it's good. If you can get past the smell, then yeah, it's actually really nice.
Okay, don't worry, you don't have to like it. Taiwanese don't like it. Yes, thank you for your sincerely pointing out that our weaknesses of Taiwanese problems. You as you say that we use the traditional Chinese, and as such we can read many classics in Chinese tradition. We read Confucianism and something. we might be polite, but in traffic problem, we are not polite.
Quite crazy.
Yes, so crazy. It's what we have to improve ourselves as a foreign image.
No country is perfect.
Yes, it's
and that's the thing. You see, like the Chinese government, the CCP, with their propaganda, they would like people to think that China is a perfect country, whereas in Taiwan, you guys can take criticism. You can admit your mistakes and you can learn from your mistakes. But in the CCP, in China, there's no learning from your mistakes because the government would like people to think that they are perfect and they can do no wrong. And that's the big difference.
Yes, you are right. The spirit of freedom is the origin of creativity. Many societies is like so, have the situation. So Taiwan has the creativity because of the spirit of freedom, because
Absolutely.
of our institution. Yes. And as you said that China has always declared that Taiwan is part of China and will not give up using force to unify Taiwan. As a result, the British magazine Economist and many Westerners in Europe and USA consider Taiwan to be one of the most dangerous places in the world. After you have actually been to Taiwan, do you really feel that the situation in Taiwan makes you feel so dangerous?
Honestly, my personal opinion is no, not at all,
Traffic.
Not even a little bit. Just the traffic is dangerous. But I feel like it's no. For me, I think that China is just blustering, and they've been saying that they're going to invade Taiwan for the last 80 years, I think it is. Is it 79 years? You know, it's been a long time and they haven't done anything. And I think the world is a different place from what it was when they first started threatening to invade. And I think that if they do invade, it's going to be a huge mistake. And I think that deep down, the CCP knows that they can't really invade Taiwan. It wouldn't be possible, honestly. So when I'm in Taiwan, I think the feeling that I get from the people, the Taiwanese people, is that they're so used to it. It's just normal life for them. This whole threat of invasion, it's always been there. And they're just so used to it that it's just normal. So I don't feel like there's a threat at all, really. But you never know. You never know with the CCP. But in terms of living there, I didn't feel like it was dangerous. I would always see the fighter jets. You know, every Chinese jet makes an incursion into Taiwanese airspace, I would always see Taiwanese fighter jets flying through, patrolling the air, because I lived in Taichung, which is in central Taiwan. So you would always see just fighter jets whipping past. I could see them from my balcony. So, of course, there's always that feeling that there's the threat of China, but people just largely ignore it.
Okay, let me share a point of view of me with you. Yeah, you said that maybe Taiwanese don't have any crisis consciousness, but some people in the world compare Taiwan to Israel. You know, Israel is also in the middle of the Middle East, and always threatened by the countries around Israel. And something is, and they say, I many years ago, I watched the Al Jazeera, and reporters asked the former Prime Minister Bennett, and the journalists asked that West Bank in the international law is okay. Israel occupied the West Bank, and it's disobey international law. What do you think? He said that you have to change if you have changed the Bible, we can change our situation. The same with China. China says that if you can change the history, it don't say that. It doesn't say international law. It says history. So if we talk about history, there is no international law. You think? It's a very sensitive question in Britain. I know that.
Yeah, sure. To be honest with you, I don't know a whole lot about it, so I'm totally unqualified to talk about that.
Okay,
Yeah.
no problem. Just share.
Sorry.
No problem. Yes, if you have the opportunity to visit Taiwan again, what would be the first trip you would like to organize?
Well, I would definitely, the first thing that I would do if I go to Taiwan, I really I really miss the Taiwanese breakfast. That sounds really stupid, but I really like, oh my God, I just love the danbing, the pagan danbing. That would be the first thing that I would do. I would go to a restaurant in the morning and I would eat some breakfast. But I would probably do it in, do you know the city Kaohsiung?
Yes.
I would probably go to Kaohsiung because I think the weather there is really good. It's by the coast and it's a really cool city. I really loved going there when I was in Taiwan. Great place. So yeah, I'd definitely go there.
Okay. Kaohsiung is a very beautiful city and more in recent years. I love Kaohsiung too. Yes.
Yeah. Where in Taiwan are you, by the way?
In Taipei.
Oh, in Taipei. Okay, yeah, Taipei is good too. I like Taipei.
I don't like Taipei.
Why?
There's no any improvement in past 2 decades. No any other improvement, advances in Taipei. But Kaohsiung's opposite.
Yeah, that's good that you can at least say that. You can criticize it and talk about it, right?
I can say that. Yeah. Criticize our government, and I will not be censored or be prisoned.
Exactly. You can say it's the government's fault, and you're not going to be locked up and thrown into some re-education center.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, also, one more thing. If I go back to Taiwan, I would definitely go to one of your amazing night markets. Now, my favorite night market was Fengjia Yeshu. Fengjia Night Market.
Taichung.
In Taichung, yeah. It's amazing. They've got some amazing food and just lots of cool things going on, and it's really vibrant and that's an awesome experience. If anybody goes to Taiwan and they don't go to the night markets, they must be crazy because that is Taiwanese culture.
Yes, Fengjia is very good, and you have to plan to Taiwan very quickly. Yeah. Okay, in your personal experience, what is the biggest difference between Taiwanese and Chinese people?
Wow, that's a good one. Now, I just want to say that I've met lots of great people when I was in China. And I've met lots of great people in Taiwan as well, in both countries. But if you're asking me in general terms, I think that the people in Taiwan, they're more accustomed to foreigners. And that's one thing that I really noticed about when I was living in both countries. And I think that probably comes from the fact that in Taiwan, you have more freedom to look at foreign websites and consume foreign media. Nothing is blocked by your government. So you have more of a chance to sort of like see what life is like for a foreigner, and you can understand foreigners more. In China, everything's blocked. So they don't really have that chance. So when they actually see a foreigner on the street, it's almost like they've seen an alien. That is how I would compare it. Like they would literally, like in China, they would point at me. They'd point at me like this and they'd be like, hey, Lao Wai, just calling me a foreigner directly to my face. Just like, here in the UK, if somebody looks at you and they point at you and they say, foreigner, that is incredibly rude. That is one of the rudest things that you could do to somebody. So experiencing that, and it wasn't just like a freak occurrence. It was every single day that I was in China, at least one person would point at me, calling me Lao Wai. And in Taiwan, I didn't get that at all. I think out of the 2 years that I was in Taiwan, I think one person pointed at me and called me a Lao Wai. And that was it.
Really? Oh, maybe 2 decades ago or 3 decades ago, Taiwanese did so too. So sure. the problems of time, yes.
Yeah, and I think, like I said, it's because you guys have opened up to the rest of the world. and you're more accepting of foreigners, I think, in general. Like I said, I met some great people in China, but also like in China, some people will stop you and they'll ask to take a photo with you just because you're a foreigner. It's like you're some kind of a celebrity, and they'll ask you stupid questions, like they'll say, 为什么你的鼻子那么高？为什么你的鼻子那么高？为什么你的皮肤是那么白？ Kind of ridiculous.
Yes, you can respond, 因为我是老外.
You know, in Taiwan, like I got the feeling like I fitted in more with the people in Taiwan. I wasn't the foreigner in Taiwan. I was more accepted by the people. And for a foreigner living in another country, that is what you want. You want to be accepted by the people. You don't want to be this weird foreigner that everybody looks at.
Okay, so you think Taiwan is a more comfortable place than China, as you feel?
Well, it depends, right? I mean, if you're a really narcissistic individual, then China would be the best place because you want people to be looking at you and talking about you and taking photos with you and that kind of thing. But for me personally, I'm more of an introvert. I'd rather just sort of put my head down and walk down the street and nobody look at me. So for somebody like me, Taiwan is perfect.
Okay. And undoubtedly, the culture or history of any country is too complex to be summarized in a few words. However, if you were asked to briefly explain the relationship between Taiwan and China in just 1 minute, how would you explain it?
I can do it in 10 seconds. Yeah, Taiwan is not a part of communist China, never has been, and it never will be. And that's all that you need to know about Taiwan and China's relationship. Taiwan is Taiwan. China is China. They're two different countries, and that's how they should be treated.
Okay, thank you. That's very simplistic and clear and good explanation. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Mm-hmm. Okay, in recent years, Taiwan has gained international attention because its technology industry plays a key role in the global industrial chain. This has made Taiwan a geopolitical power that international powers see as a small country that must be drawn in. From your perspective as a Briton, what do you think of Taiwan's international status? Do you think that the technology industry has indeed given Taiwan a positive international image?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, because Taiwan has the headquarters of TMC, which produced the silicon chips. And I think that because of this is one reason that a lot of politicians use that we should defend Taiwan because of the silicon chip industry. Because if you look at any piece of technology in your home, like computer, television, your mobile phone, that kind of thing, then without Taiwan, none of that would be possible. So yeah, it's definitely bolstered Taiwan's international image, being this technological powerhouse that it's known as. And I think that really is amazing for Taiwan. But again, if you just ask the average person on the high street, if you say to them, what is Taiwan famous for? They have no idea. So that's part of my job, to tell people and inform people about what Taiwan is famous for and why Taiwan is worth defending in this crazy world that we live in. So yeah, silicon chips, awesome, great. But I think people need to know more about Taiwan other than just that it's great at making chips.
Okay. Do you think many Britons know the fact, or how does the British government do? What does the British government do, or did they care about Taiwan's semiconductor industry in British foreign policy consideration?
Yeah, of course they do, because it's really, really important. Like I said, we wouldn't have any of this technology in our homes if it wasn't for Taiwan. And I think British politicians definitely know the importance of this. But unfortunately, China has a lot of say in how other countries, even other countries' governments, run their countries. China has a lot of influence. You know, just recently there was that case there was a Chinese a spy from China. Her name was Christine Lee, and she was giving donations to one of the Labour MPs, sending him donations. And now, obviously, they deny that she had any influence. But if somebody's giving you a lot of money, then of course that is going to give them some kind of influence over your politics, right? So there is a lot of CCP influence, and they have a lot of money, and they are able to bribe MPs and people in parliament, and that's quite scary. So yeah, it's just, oh man, it really, really makes me feel annoyed actually that this kind of thing happens.
What do you think are the biggest challenges facing Taiwanese in the international arena today? Can you offer any specific advice?
I would say that the biggest challenge is just making people aware of your problems, because right now the whole world is focused on Ukraine and Israel, and you know, there's not really a lot of room for Taiwan in that whole thing, because you look at the news, it's all about Israel, it's all about Ukraine. So I think Taiwan really, really needs to try and push the situation and push the importance of the situation. Now, I'm not really sure what Taiwanese people can do, but I think the government in Taiwan can definitely try to push the importance. And also, I think one way of doing that would be to really push tourism in Taiwan more, because, you know, when you talk about people traveling to Asia, it's always they go to Thailand, they go to Japan, they go to Vietnam, but they never go to Taiwan. And I don't understand why tourism isn't such a huge thing in Taiwan, because Taiwan is one of the most beautiful countries in Asia. I think it's the heart of Asia, right? So I think if tourism is pushed more to Taiwan, I think more and more people will go there. They'll come back to their countries and they'll share Taiwan's story with the rest of the world, because, you know, Taiwan is a fantastic country. And it's definitely worthy of people going there. And for some reason, your government, I don't really see much about tourism in Taiwan pushed to my country. So I think that's a start, at least.
Okay, so it's a very important to let our government to know that tourism, they have to promote advances tourism to the foreigners, for Westerners. Yes,
I think so. Yeah, I think so. You tell the Laowai to come to Taiwan.
Yes. Thank you. And as you say that China has a sharp power, Taiwan, Taiwan have to use some power to resist the sharp power, we just have the soft power, like tourism, like our culture. We use this kind of soft power as a small country to resist big country, large countries. Sharp power to penetrate.
Yeah, you make a good point there. I think that soft power is incredibly important. I mean, you already have a lot of Taiwanese dramas that people watch. You know, like Taiwanese drama is really popular in the UK and in foreign countries. So you get to see how cool Taiwan is. So maybe if you have more sort of soft power victories, maybe you can promote more Taiwanese music, Taiwanese culture, then, you know, people will truly see how amazing Taiwan is.
Okay. Would you add something to today's interview?
I always want to speak up for Taiwan because I really love Taiwan, and I watched some of your videos on YouTube, and I really enjoyed the content. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate you. Okay, Take care。
好，那相信大家刚刚看了这个路易斯访谈非常丰富，也看到一个英国人怎么样看台湾。那我简单说一下我从访谈他当中所得到的一些心得，不外乎就是说我们一般人访谈外国人对台湾的印象就是台湾有民主制度啊，中国没有，这是我们一般的印象。但我刚才访谈他非常惊讶的一点就是说，在英国人的眼里啊，其实台湾的戏剧是非常值得推广，只是台湾好像政府不是那么重视一块，所以呢，他认为台湾应该要多多推广台湾文化为基础的这个戏剧在英国。当然我们可以了解，英国就是这个戏剧的产地，这个就是这个莎士比亚文艺复兴时期呢做出了很多戏剧，所以英国人是很爱看戏的。所以我想我们台湾人除了理解自己认为自己很好以外，要推广这个文化的时候也要对其胃口啊，就是说在欧洲啊这些喜欢看戏的这些国家，那我们把台湾的这个本土的戏剧把它国际化，所以我们现在说是这个在地化跟国际化相结合。我想推展台湾文化的其中一个方法，展现软实力的方法，就是推广台湾戏剧。那当然啦，另外有一个东西也可以特别注意，就是说我们台湾的风景是非常的美丽的，但是呢，这个旅游啊，刚才他也有提到，旅游这件事情是政府应该要更加推广的，因为台湾的风景、人文风景、自然风景都不下于很多东南亚国家，但是我们相较于他们的这个旅游的人数，外国人旅游的人数呢，可能不是那么多，所以如果我们可以跟政府建议的话，也许这个也是一个我们可以琢磨的点。那其他什么民主制度啊，这个大家也都是老生常谈了，就不用多说了，这样子。好，那谢谢大家的观看，我们今天这期节目就到这里为止，大家拜拜。